I had bumblebees.
Oh no, we just weeded so much last week.
A lot goes into growing vegetables, and I think about it when I'm at home making a sandwich, and what's the process it takes from being grown to being to the store to being to my home.
And that food is incredibly important, right? And that our culture here is essentially taking it entirely for granted and leaving it to an industrial process that doesn't really care, right? It's an impersonal industrial process that sees cheap food being delivered into people's houses, and it's simply not sustainable. And it's also not healthy, right? So people aren't thriving, farms aren't thriving, and people aren't thriving. So we've got all these issues, and you see how these things play out through history time and time again, right? I mean, civilizations rise and fall, and it's not news to anybody, but they always fail on the basis of their lack of sustainability in agricultural production.
What do you think is failing right now?
Right now, what's failing is, first of all, people are not able to make a decent living growing food in a sustainable way. So if you're growing food in the industrial mode, you can make a living, but you've got to have a huge farm. It has to be capitalized to an incredible degree, right? So you've got equipment that's worth billions of dollars, well, millions of dollars. You've got land that is worth millions of dollars, and this means that nobody else can get into it, right? So you've got a few large farms that are incredibly well capitalized, and that's a bit of a failure right there, because it kills rural communities, right? The larger the farms get, the fewer farmers, and that's the end of that rural community. The other failure is the lack of quality in our food, and that's a real failure. And if you look at studies, and the studies are out there, you can see this trajectory where the nutrient content of our food has been declining for about 60 years. And that's in every significant way, in vitamin content and mineral content. The only things that go up when the governments do these samples are fats and salts. And those are not the things that we need more of in our diet, right? So that's a big failure right there too. And then just simple sustainability of the whole food production system is failing, right? We have based it entirely on fossil fuel consumption. So as long as we've got cheap fossil fuels, we can keep on growing cheap food and make sure that nobody starves. But that's a finite resource. And at some point in time, we're going to have to start grappling with that reality. And you can't keep on using a finite resource trying to develop a sustainable agricultural system. It's just simply not going to work. It's going to get far too expensive.
Oh man. Whereas these guys, that was the sound of a hen getting abused by a rooster.
And what have the chickens brought to your life?
Oh, joy.
Joy.
Entertainment is definitely one of their big things. Compost. Starting to do their little teenage crow in the morning. Their little...
What do the neighbors think?
They're on holiday right now, so they're actually... It's only been in the last week that it's really started to get bad. So soon, one by one, I'm either going to make a home for them out on a farm, or I'm going to start turning them into soup. Leaving one. Mm-hmm. And there's one rooster that I'll choose to be the chosen one. And every day I'll take him into my basement at night, and he'll spend the night in the basement. And then in the morning, after a reasonable hour, he'll crow the morning away in the basement. I had my previous rooster did this, but he was a real jerk, and so I had to kill him.
This is like Survivor chickens.
Yeah, these are
the chosen one.
The chosen one.
I think I want a simple life, but I live in the city. I think it's Ed's family guiding me. This is what I've learned. It's never quite felt like
The policy of governments, Western governments especially, has been to have cheap food created. And the key to that has been the cheap energy. And as the energy gets more and more rare and more expensive, they will no longer be able to provide cheap food. The industrial system is based on fossil fuels, and the cost will have to go up. And that will not happen with sustainably produced food, using human labor, animal labor, and very limited fossil fuels. So those two lines will cross at some point in time, and that'll change the whole game. So if I can make a decent living using animal labor, horses, oxen, maybe a small tractor, and then just human labor, and my food is now cheaper than the food that the industrial system puts out there, and it's definitely healthier, and the soil's healthier, and there's a cultural vibrancy to a farm like that, that'll change the game.
When you're traveling on the road for such a long time as we have,
you get a little out of shape. When you spend 13 hours in a car, your gut gets flabby. To combat this, you need to exercise. Step 1. Put dirty socks on. What's the Rocky soundtrack? But we're gonna put a music soundtrack on this anyway. Step 2, this is also a quick thing that you can do to maintain buff arms. This might not look like much, but if you do it for at least 2 minutes, you'll be a lot stronger than you were yesterday.
Well, now that's something to show your granddaughters when you have your cleaning fluid, huh?
We can't keep on farming the way we are. We just can't. The soil will not allow for that for another 100 years. It will not allow us to keep on dumping synthetic fertilizer onto it and then exporting the nutrients. Because that's essentially what we do in Canada. Most of our food is exported. Whether it's livestock, whether it's grain, oil seeds, most of it leaves the country. And those are not just food things, but they are all the nutrients that those food things have taken out of the soil, right? And they're gone, and they're never coming back. So there's this question of sheer sustainability doing that. Those nutrients right now are coming from fossil fuels, right? Natural gas is the primary feedstock for the nitrogen in your synthetic fertilizer. Once again, natural gas is not an infinite thing, right? It will run out at some point in time, and before that, it will get rare and very expensive. And you won't be able to put those synthetic nutrients back into your soil. So at some point in time, you're going to have to find a system that allows the nutrients to cycle. What that will look like exactly, we don't know, right? Farming is still an experiment after 10 to 12,000 years. This newer one we're involved in right now, the predominant mode, this industrial mode of production, is really only about 70 years old. It's a very new experiment, and it will be interesting to see how it evolves into the future.
When I look at this, I'm like, this could be healthier than an organic farm.
Oh yeah, I actually sometimes feel, depending on where you go, I think it actually all depends on who you know. You need to know your farmer. They don't need to have a label. They don't need to have a certifying body. They don't need to belong to an organization. There's nothing like that needs to be other than you knowing where your food comes from. So if you can go to the farmer and say, yeah, this is where I get my pork chops, that's all you need. Because you can see it, and you're part of it, and it's different.
I still consider myself young. I'm not that old. I'm only 38. And in farming world, I'm young, right? And I want to have hope for the future. And young people want to have hope for the future, right? It's one of the things that demarcates that period of your life. Hopefulness, right? Optimism. And if you want to have that and see it come to fruition, you're going to need to get involved. At the bare minimum, as a consumer, you're going to have to become aware and change the way that you spend your money on food. It's labor intensive, and unless you're comfortable with bringing in migrant labor, which, like for philosophical reasons, I'm not, you have no options. You know, you need apprentices or woofers, or somehow you need to connect with the young people that have the desire to learn and the desire to work hard, and also to enjoy that life.
It's something that my partner and I have been talking about for like years, about starting a business or starting a farm. We've been backyard gardeners for a long time, and we've always thought about doing something a little more directly aligned with our values. And we have really good office jobs in the city. My boyfriend was a planner. I worked for an environmental NGO. And we kind of be like, we should do something different where we actually do work that's more meaningful to us and we feel the direct impact of our work in the community and we're really like walking the talk of our sustainability values. And then we'd be like, well, but we make good money and we have job security and benefits and vacation and it's really risky and hard to make, you know, a living off having a farm. And we talk ourselves out of it. And I guess for me, it finally came down to the fact that I didn't want to be 55 and still working at my office job that I didn't really find satisfying, and just realized that I talked myself out of doing something different for my whole life.
Everybody needs to know something. As long as somebody knows something in your circle of people, I mean, not everyone's going to know how to raise animals, but if you know how to grow tomatoes, you might know somebody who really grows broccoli well, and within a group of people you can feed each other. What a fantastic way to share.